What makes Outriders particularly interesting to me is its reliance on juxtaposing completely different designs and somehow still making it work. It's a third-person cover shooter that is constantly pushing you to rush the enemy with your powers and stay agile. It's a looter shooter, but one that focuses on being a single campaign experience rather than a live service. If you're new to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, maybe hit the bell icon, and share the video with your friends if you find the video useful. Now let's get into this review, starting with story. Despite what I said about it being hit or miss writing, for the most part, Outriders does a great job at creating a world that's interesting and fascinating to learn about. Just like real life, Earth has been slowly falling apart with climate change frequently destroying the planet. Humanity's ability to rectify its mistakes has also dwindled over time. In a last-ditch effort to find a new home, the world combined the resources of all its nations to create the Enoch Colonization Authority. This program would send 2 massive ships, each holding 500,000 colonists, on a journey to find a new planet to live on. After 83 years of traveling, the first settlers finally arrive on the planet, Enoch. Those that first settle on the planet are called the Outriders, and they quickly discover the alien-like anomaly. It's a massive surge of energy that spreads faster than the circles in PUBG. In complete shock and fear, the Outriders warn the ECA leadership, who in an attempt to keep this off the record, completely massacre the Outriders. Luckily, one of the Outriders is able to survive the purge, that's us, and we're put into a cryosleep by a fellow ECA scientist on the right side of the law. We then wake up 31 years later, now to a completely different world where the anomaly completely destroyed humanity's resources and trapped the rest of the survivors in this single valley. The thing is, there's not enough space for everyone. With the Earth seemingly completely reset, different factions seek to overthrow the ECA, while a select few Outriders that survived the anomaly initial purge were instead gifted with superpowers, including us. With our new gifted abilities, we aid the now aged Shira, the woman that saved us, in restoring order. In terms of a foundation or a story bible for a series, this was awesome. The setup does a great job at making me hate the ECA and building a fantastic sci-fi world that feels like a truly entertaining adventure. However, where the story starts to fall apart a bit is in its attempt to interlude humor. Now don't get me wrong, it works on occasion, but more often than not, the humor dives into a very edgelord comedy that doesn't land for a lot of people. If you do gel with it, great. The story is going to be fantastic. Personally, I vibed with some jokes and others felt poorly thought out. Ultimately, what I did enjoy was being in the world itself, being able to explore the aftermath of Enoch, and most of all, that sweet gameplay loop. At its core, Outriders feels like a mix of so many conflicting gameplay designs. It's Gears of War's cover system, only less tanky and more agile. It's the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, but with a bigger focus on RPG elements and abilities. It's a looter shooter, but one with a campaign focus, yet requires you to be online all the time. It's definitely odd on paper, but in practice, it's one of my favorite gameplay loops this year, and that's coming from someone that isn't super into looter shooters. So what's the hook? Well, for me, it's the gameplay loop. Despite looking like a service game on the surface, it's not. It's a pretty linear story with elements of a looter shooter throughout the campaign. You jump in with a very simple character creator, and after the prologue, you're pretty much in the action. You're able to choose between 4 different classes with each of its own unique powers that further develop over time. Personally, I went with the Trickster class that has the power to use space and time. That means I can create bubbles that slow down time and teleport behind enemies. They're fantastic abilities that have their own unique offensive techniques, but for things like the teleportation, they offer great repositioning strategies that you'll be using a lot in Outriders. It's an interesting contrast because despite being a cover shooter, you're rewarded for being aggressive during combat. Sure, I can hide behind cover and take out some enemies close by, but for far away turret and rifle enemies, I quickly teleport behind them, burst out a slowdown bubble, and get the kill. Suddenly a whole new wave of enemies show up and I gotta quickly dip and get behind cover, looking for more ammo and waiting for the abilities to refill. All at the same time, enemies are dropping you loot in the same vein as Destiny, meaning multicolored weapons with different rarities and attributes. There's a lot going on at once, and it's that adrenaline boost that it gives me that has me so attached. Most of the game is playable with up to 3 players online, and while there is crossplay between the different platforms, it's a beta feature, so your experience may vary. I primarily played alone for my playthrough, seeing as the early launch days for Outriders were filled with server issues. Sadly, for a game that can be played alone, it still requires online, so if the servers are down, you're kind of out of luck, which in general has been a big issue since launch day for me. To the Outriders team's credit though, they've been quite transparent about everything, so keep an eye on their socials for any updates. Now back to the gameplay. Like most RPGs, your character has a level that increases as you take on more enemies. Leveling up unlocks class points that can then buff up your playstyle. As you can see, I went all in on doing more damage, so in conjunction with my trickster skills, I can sneak up on enemies, land a heavy hit, but how you develop your character is completely up to you. What Outriders does interestingly though is give the entire world a level. So as you play and get better, you unlock new world levels. These are essentially difficulty settings that change up the enemies you'll face. If you want to focus on the story, or you're just having trouble with the boss, you can turn down the world level, get past the obstacle, and turn it back up. Cleverly, certain weapon rarities and unlockables are tied to these world levels, so the balance there is pretty well done. If you're not eager to lower the difficulty, you can dip out of a mission you can't get past, and just go on a side quest to not only learn more about Enoch's inhabitants, but also level up and maybe earn some new tools along the way. Outriders is one of the most post-processing effect heavy games I've played this year. Pretty much anywhere I've looked, something was exploding with debris, energy flares, and who knows what else is dispersing in the air. Combat moments get heated, and with it, all the cover in the area gets blown up, filling up the skies like tiny little fireworks. It's quite the sight to see in action, and in the more somber moments, the realistic though occasionally goofy looking character models take center stage. Now with the game being on so many variations of different platforms, you're going to get a wide variety of performances. If you're playing on the last generation consoles such as the PS4, PS4 Pro, Xbox One, and Xbox One X, then your target frame rate is 30 frames per second. For the most part, gameplay hits that target, but suffers from frame pacing, especially on the weaker versions of the consoles. PS4 Pro and Xbox One X do a better job in that regard. As for the resolution, Xbox One runs at a dynamic 900p going down to 680p, technically not even HD anymore. PS4 has a dynamic resolution of 1080p down to 720p. For the Pro consoles, the PS4 Pro ranges from around 1500p down to 1140p, but uses checkerboard rendering to reconstruct to native 4K. On the Xbox One X, that's 1944p resolution down to 1500p, also using checkerboard rendering to sample up to native 4K. Current generation consoles are of course a much better experience both in resolution and in frame rates. The PS5 runs at a dynamic 1800p down to a very rare 1260p, while the Xbox Series X runs at about 2088p down to a very rare 1440p. Lastly, there's the Series S that ranges between 900p and 1440p, and despite being a lower resolution console, it also targets 60 frames per second like the PS5 and the Series X. While the higher end consoles tend to hit that 60 FPS target with no problem, the Series S struggles more with a range of 45 frames up to 60 frames. For my playthrough, I played on both a Series S and a Series X. Playing on my Series S, I was happy to see a nice middle ground with a higher frame rate and above 1080p gameplay, but I would have loved to see some sort of VSync here or a locked frame rate. The inconsistency is just very jarring. As for the Series X, playing at an upscaled 4K 60 FPS, man, it's hard to go back to last gen consoles. It's a beautiful looking game that, again in conjunction with those heavy post-processing effects, looks amazing. Now it's not without its flaws though. Playing on an Xbox Series X for an extended 12 hours straight, I started to see some graphical glitches, especially with the blood during combat. Restarting the game seemed to have fixed it, but it could have been a result of the game's cache not working well with the console, being put to sleep on occasion, or just having the game not be restarted for long periods of time. Either way, it's something I experienced and something I wanted to note. In terms of actor performance, Outriders delivers some great voice work that ranges a spectrum of different emotions. You'll be in the middle of a dark realization only to have your character crack a witty remark about it after. It's a jarring contrast at times, but the line delivery works for the most part. While some of the writing and delivery can feel a bit out of place, I'd be lying if I said it didn't make me laugh at times. When it does come to sound design though, I wish the guns were a bit more impactful. Gunplay is fine by all means, but I perhaps may have been a bit spoiled by the sound design in recent Call of Duty games, where the gun sound impact at times could even scare me. The ones in Outriders are adequate,
but it can be better.
Outriders on paper is probably not the game you'd expect me to like so much. Looter shooters are cool, but I'm usually in and out as soon as I played enough for a review. Outriders is different though. It's just a position between different gameplay designs, occasional funny writing, and just good feeling combat hooked me on its campaign. The different branching classes that play differently from one another further incentivized me to replay after I was done to truly experience everything Outriders has to offer. Sure, there are a few bugs here and there, the story can dip a few times, and if you're on last generation consoles outside the One X, then probably don't play this game. However, if you're on the fence about this, I say give it a shot. Go play the demo or get it through Game Pass, because this feels like the next Discord squad game I'll be playing for a while. Thank you very much for watching this review. Let me know what you think about Outriders in the comments down below. Are you playing it through Game Pass? Did you download the demo? To save progress for that carries over, by the way. If you are playing, what class are you trying? Let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, I gotta get back because I have a lot of reviews to work on, so hit that bell icon so you don't miss out on them. I'll see you guys in the comments down below or over on the Discord server.